Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. So today we're going to take something incredibly familiar, something you've probably sung 1,000 times, and we're going to completely deconstruct it. We're looking at a super simple 22-line transcript, but as we'll discover together in just a few minutes, it is literally a masterclass in communicating unconditional love, pure joy, and, well, temporal permanence. It's going to be a really fun one.
Let's jump right into the game plan. We've got 4 parts today. First up, setting the cheerful stage. Second, the phonetic rhythmic hook. Third, a temporal timeline of love. And finally, the power of repetition.
All right, starting right off with part 1, setting the cheerful stage, or the auditory baseline. Before a single lyric is even sung, the environment is just meticulously established. Let's walk through the actual audio cues in the transcript that instantly ground us in this really sensory, innocent experience. Right out the gate, we get bright music starting up. Then an announcer very clearly introduces Noodle and Pals, which totally sets our expectations. Next, we hear children giggling. And finally, cheerful music kicks in to lock down the tempo. It's essentially a highly engineered on-ramp, completely designed to strip away any cynicism you might have. And that detail right there, the children giggling, it brilliantly illustrates the emotional anchor of the whole piece. I mean, the giggling acts as this auditory primer for the core message of love that's about to follow. It instantly signals to our brains, hey, we are entering a safe, warm space. It's like a psychological warm-up before the real message is even delivered. Moving right along to part 2, the phonetic rhythmic hook, defining the undefinable. So it's actually fascinating how we can define this absolute gibberish as a highly functional rhythmic runway. Skidamarink-a-dink-a-dink, skidamarink-a-doo, right? It literally turns playful syllables into an emotional delivery system. It's bouncy, it's totally infectious, and it grabs our attention precisely because it has absolutely zero dictionary definition. Now, notice the really striking contrast at play here. On one hand, we have the chaotic joy of the phonetic setup, which is then immediately followed by the piercing clarity of the actual message. It's wild. We have to mentally process this string of complex, bouncy nonsense, only to run straight into a brick wall of stark, direct simplicity. And that brings us to the crucial point. This entire phonetic exercise exists for one reason and one reason only, to clear the way for 3 simple, powerful words. I love you. The rhythm basically acts as a Trojan horse. It gets you dancing, it gets you smiling, and then boom, it drops the emotional payload right into the very center of the experience. Okay, part 3, a temporal timeline of love, the masterpiece timeline. Let's look at how this builds from that abstract rhythm into a very concrete, chronological reality. The lyrics meticulously cover a literal, full 24-hour cycle of affection without missing a single phase of the day. Think about it. We hit the morning, progress to the afternoon, settle right into the evening, and finally, we end underneath the moon. I really want to highlight that specific poetic phrasing capping off the day-night cycle. It completely elevates the text from a simple daytime greeting into an omnipresent vow. I mean, they could have just said night, right? But underneath the moon, wow. It gives us a beautiful visual. It creates an atmosphere. It wraps the entire subject in this environment of absolute care. The big takeaway here is that it signifies round-the-clock, unconditional affection. The narrative is making absolutely sure we grasp that the love described in these lyrics knows literally zero temporal boundaries. It is absolutely not conditional on the hour of the day. Which brings us to our final section, part 4, the power of repetition, structural reinforcement. If we want to understand why the transcript loops its entire sequence twice, we've got to look at its structural composition. It's so heavily weighted toward the joyful rhythmic setup and the core message, effectively encasing the temporal progression right in the middle. The Skidamarink lines and the I love you lines take up the vast bulk of the lyrical real estate. They basically serve as this thick protective shell of joy around the timeline of the day. But why do the whole thing twice? Well, the repetition isn't redundant at all. Actually, it acts at an energetic escalation driven by some very specific musical cues. It loops the exact 11 lyrics twice, brilliantly using just the simple word "oh" as a springboard right back to the top. And most importantly, the transcript notes a very distinct shift. It goes from cheerful music to lively music continues. The energy is intentionally ramping up. 22. Just 22 lines. In a mere 22 lines, this text establishes a cheerful mood, defines a totally unique rhythm, covers all of time, and reinforces its message through rigorous looping. It's just a masterwork of efficiency.
And the crazy part is, it doesn't just stop. The transcript deliberately leaves us with this final audio cue. Lively music continues, which perfectly implies that the joy and the love extend infinitely beyond the text itself. The words might run out, but the feeling definitely doesn't. So I'll leave you with this thought to chew on. Is Skidamarink just a catchy tune, or is it the ultimate masterclass in communicating unconditional, round-the-clock love? I really hope you can now see the incredible structural brilliance hiding inside such simple childhood communication. Next time you hear it, you're going to know exactly the architectural wonder you're experiencing. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep staying curious.